If you started stacking anytime after 2021, your stacking journey's been a heck of a ride. Between people telling you that silver is going to do all these amazing things, so keep stacking, and the reality of a highly volatile silver market, it's been enough to make the Dalai Lama lose his cool and want to break things and start fighting. I can really feel the anger and frustration because anytime I say something perceived as bad about silver, my friends over on Reddit are quick to comment and let me know that I'm not a real silver stacker. I get it. You're not really mad at me, and I understand that their anger and frustration is really with those who have misled them and fed them poisonous fruit of unrealistic expectations. This is why temper is so important. More on that in a moment. As Sue Fitzmaurice stated, disappointment doesn't stem from expectation. It stems from unrealistic or unreasonable expectations. For years, I've been bombarded with the constant pumping and hyping of silver and unrealistic expectations being shoved down my throat as well. The thumbnails with the triple-digit silver numbers, seeing the titles that say, act now, the time is now, silver is running out, it's going to be too late, and all the other things we've seen for the last 2 or 3 years. I can see why so many people are angry and frustrated and looking to blame the government and big banks for what feels like a failed investment. Of course, tempers flare when me and other creators come along and try to tell them something different. In this video's thumbnail, unless I've changed it after posting it, I've used the words temper. And you have to forgive me because I used the same word twice for very different contexts. And let me explain. Most of the time, when we hear the word temper, when we think about it being used as a noun to refer to someone's emotional disposition, a personality trait, a state of mind, or how quickly someone is to turn to anger. The other way to use temper is as a verb to kind of describe how we adjust something to make it more suitable for a purpose. A great example of this is when making ice cream. After heating heavy cream and milk, you have to incorporate the egg yolk, sugar, and vanilla extract. Doesn't that sound good? Never mind. That was my inner fat boy talking. Okay, I'm gonna focus, I promise. Okay, back to ice cream making. If you were to mix the hot liquid with the egg mixture, the eggs would cook right away. Instead of having a smooth, nice custard, you'd end up with a liquid with chunks of scrambled eggs in it. Yuck. To avoid this, you have to slowly add the hot mixture to the eggs and constantly whisk so the eggs slowly come up to temperature as opposed to cooking. As a parallel, we as investors, we have to perfect the skill of tempering our expectations. As I shared, unrealistic and unreasonable expectations will lead to disappointment and suboptimal investing decisions. Additionally, as expectations increase, we also have a tendency to shrink our timeline associated with that investment. This becomes increasingly important and challenging as we face a barrage of unrealistic and unreasonable expectations that come from promoters, hypers, and pumpers, because I know the damage they and their messages can do to you as an investor if it's left unchecked. Perhaps the words of JFK captures this the best. The great enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. Next time you hear a really successful investor talk, listen to the type of words they use. It's never hype or hyperbole, even when they are very optimistic. That optimism is often tempered by the reality that you can do everything right and things will still go wrong. It's why Rick Rule makes the distinction between something that is inevitable and that doesn't mean that it's imminent. So why are you making such a big deal about this, Doc? As an investor, your expectations can lead to suboptimal decision making. It will cause you to leave an investment early because it's quote unquote underperformance, or it will make you stay in an investment too long because you have a bad price projection. At best, it blurs your vision, and at worst, it completely blinds you to the reality of the situation. It can make it harder to see opportunities if you're blinded by what JFK refers to as the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic expectations. Now that we know the issue, let's talk about how we combat it. 1, take a dose of reality. With so many pumpers giving you all the wild predictions of triple-digit silver, I wonder if they've ever stopped and done the math. So let's help them. Silver's highest performing year was 1979 when it went up 434%. At today's price of $21.50, if silver went up 434%, it would reach $114. So how confident are you that silver's going to do 434% in 1 year? Okay, I have to admit, that may be an unfair example. Instead, how about we do this? How about we take the returns from 2002 to 2007, where silver had its highest returns ranging from 3% all the way up to 49% compounding. Well, I put that in a chart, and as you can see, using those numbers, silver only reaches $70. Well, what would silver be if we compounded the price at 25% for the next 6 years? Well, it would only reach $81.96. Okay, how about 30% compounding? At that level, it would reach $103 in 6 years. Again, I'm not saying silver isn't a good investment or that compounding 25% annually over 6 years isn't phenomenal. It is. But that also isn't $100 silver. Instead of having unreasonable and unrealistic expectations of silver, I want you to protect yourself from disappointment and the rest of us from your bad attitudes by taking a dose of reality and setting more realistic expectations. You can't ever expect an investment to perform in a way that it has never done in the past. Number 2, develop reasonable expectations. Hopefully that dose of reality opened up your mind. Now look at the chart here of silver's annual performance since 1969, and it averages out to be a 12% return annually. Given that we're in a bull market, how about we set a reasonable expectation that silver could be at $75 at the end of this decade? Reflecting back on that price chart, I want to point out that even if silver went up 25% from today, silver would still be cheap at $26.87, meaning there is also no need to feel rushed in your accumulation. Yes, you would like to get as much as you can for as cheap as you can, but you don't have to have a fear of a big run up in price making it too expensive. And no, you don't need to worry about us running out of silver either. There may be shortages because of limited supply of silver in the retail investor sector, but there's plenty of silver in the world, as many people have proven. Number 3, no more "this time is different" thinking. Get that out of your head. That is also referred to as the gambler's fallacy. Let me make this plain. There's always a group of people yelling, well, this time is going to be different. It's not going to be different. Markets are based on people and cycles, and they all repeat. Just because you flip a quarter 3 times and each time is landed on heads does not mean that it's a greater probability of landing on tails the 4th time you flip it. It's still a 50-50 chance. Heads or tails. The reason why I'm somewhere between happy and neutral about my silver holdings is because silver has done exactly what I've expected it to do. I expect it to be volatile. I expect it to have these starts and stops and trade in a certain range. It's done that for 50 years. Why would I expect anything different? I know that if I buy it right, it's going to hold a value and protect my wealth. And every so often, it's going to give me a small window where the price will spike and I will need to move quickly in order to capitalize on it. Number 4, question the information you receive. For example, one of the first things out of silver stackers' mouths is how undervalued silver is compared to its uses and the value added. And let's not forget that the EV revolution is going to require even more silver, and that's going to send the price through the roof. Maybe, just maybe, the current price of silver is what it's supposed to be as determined by the market. Now, that doesn't mean it won't be more valuable in the future because of those things, but those things are in the future, and that's not 2023 prices or 2025 or even 2030 prices. The next time someone starts hyperventilating about how important silver is for electric vehicles and green movement, make sure you ask them how much more silver will be used in an EV, just as one example. Because the research I found from the Silver Institute, as a matter of fact, I'm going to put it up here on the screen. As you can see, the best case scenario here is a doubling of what is currently used. But that only means 1.5 ounces per vehicle. Those pumpers make it sound like it's going to be pounds, not 50 grams. Tempering or having reasonable expectations is a critical disposition for you as an investor, as you should never expect an investment or a market to perform outside of what it has historically done. While there will and may be aberrations and outlier moments, that's not what you build your investment thesis around. It's akin to saying, I couldn't touch a basketball rim yesterday, but in 2 weeks, I'm going to be able to dunk the ball. As unrealistic expectations will only fuel disappointment, frustration, and cause your temper to flare. Instead, temper your expectations so that you'll be happier and more successful as an investor. In the comment section, what are some of the unrealistic expectations of silver you've heard? Did you have any unrealistic expectations at one point? If so, what helped you overcome them? Which of the 4 tips is most helpful? Or just put an A+ in the grade book comment section to make sure you get full credit for always being my A+ students. Always stack smarter and never stop learning.